She was a 19-year-old traveler, full of dreams, visiting family abroad, until a single ride changed everything forever. What followed was a disappearance that baffled investigators, a nationwide manhunt, and a truth so chilling it still echoes decades later. This isn't just another true crime video. It's one of the most gripping, disturbing, and heartbreaking stories you will ever hear. If you watch only one case today, make it this one. The Road to Nowhere. Céline Figue's life began in the quiet French town of Bezons on May 23, 1976. Nestled not far from the Swiss border, it was the kind of place where families knew each other by name, and trouble was rare. Céline grew up surrounded by love, her parents, 2 brothers, and a sister. Her father worked the land, and the children spent long days outdoors, helping to keep the family farm alive. At school, Céline was bright, athletic, and popular. Sports filled her afternoons, and her circle of friends was wide. When she was 14, her parents took her to Britain. She fell in love with it instantly. The language, the culture, the energy. From that trip onward, she dreamed of making a life there. Inspired by her cousin, a hotel manager in the UK, she set her sights on a career in hospitality. After school, she studied accounting at a local university, but Britain kept calling her back. Every chance she got, she crossed the channel to visit her cousin. One summer, he even helped her secure a short-term job at a hotel, giving her a taste of the life she hoped to build. By December 1995, at 19 years old, Céline decided to spend Christmas in Britain once again. But that year, French rail travel was in chaos. Strikes and disruptions made train service unreliable. Her parents arranged an alternative. A family friend, a truck driver making a delivery to England, agreed to take her as far as Folkestone. From there, she would travel 150 miles to Fordingbridge, where her cousin's hotel awaited. On December 18th, she set off, planning to arrive that evening. Her parents expected a phone call to confirm she'd made it safely, but the hours passed in silence. She didn't own a mobile phone, so they could only wait. Finally, the phone rang late that night, but it wasn't Céline. It was her cousin. She hadn't arrived. He wanted to know if her plans had changed. Panic began to set in. Her parents contacted the police. French authorities immediately reached out to their British counterparts, who launched a search across 2 countries for the young woman who had vanished somewhere between the Channel and the quiet English countryside. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us and helps us grow. A huge thank you to everyone who's been watching. The Last Ride. The investigation's first priority was to retrace Céline's final journey. Her parents, now in England, told detectives about the family friend, a truck driver, who had agreed to take her as far as Folkestone. Police found him quickly. He confirmed that he had dropped her there before heading in a different direction. While at the truck stop, he had met another French trucker bound for Newbury, about an hour from her cousin's hotel. This second driver offered Céline a lift. Detectives tracked him down too. He told them that once they reached a Newbury truck stop, Céline tried using a payphone to call her cousin, hoping he could collect her. For some reason, she couldn't get through. By then, it was already 4:30 p.m. The driver suggested she take a train, but the nearest station was dozens of miles away, and his delivery route wouldn't allow him to take her there. Trying to help, he began asking other truckers if they could give her a ride. The first man he approached refused. He was planning to rest before his next trip. But the second man agreed. He said he was heading to Salisbury, just a half hour from her cousin's town, and told Céline she could likely catch an 8 p.m. bus from there. With few options left, Selene climbed into the cab of his truck. From that moment, her trail went cold. Detectives tried to find this third driver, but the details were scarce. The man who had handed her over didn't know his name or license plate, only that the truck was a white Mercedes. He described the driver as about 35, with short blonde hair and a beard. Something about his demeanor had felt off. Uneasy as he was, the driver had still let Selene go with him. She had no other way forward. The face in the sketch. As suspicion zeroed in on the mysterious third driver, detectives worked with the witness's description to produce a composite sketch. It was released to the media, splashed across newspapers and broadcast on television. The first two truckers who had helped Selene were thoroughly vetted. Their alibis were airtight. Both men had been in other locations at the crucial time. But the third driver? His story contained a glaring red flag. He told Selene she could catch an evening bus from Salisbury to her cousin's town. Police discovered no such bus existed. It was days before Christmas, and the image of a young woman vanishing during the holidays struck a deep chord with the public. Across Britain and France, her disappearance dominated headlines. The case also triggered a chilling fear. Was this the work of a serial killer? Over the past 2 years, several young women had been murdered in the same region. Investigators were already working on the theory that one man was responsible. Now they feared Selene had joined his list of victims. Authorities launched a massive search. More than 100 officers joined the hunt, supported by helicopters and even a plane scanning from above. Teams focused on the route the unknown driver was believed to have taken with Selene, but no trace emerged. For a week, the search turned up nothing. Police and Selene's family made repeated public appeals, urging anyone who recognized the driver or had seen her to come forward. Every tip ended in disappointment. Then, on the morning of December 29th, a call came in that froze investigators. A man driving near Worcester had pulled over to adjust his windshield wipers. Walking along the roadside, he spotted something unusual, partially hidden under snow. He stepped closer. It was a body. Shaken, he drove home and called police. Officers arrived quickly and confirmed it was the remains of a young woman. At first, they suspected it might be a local missing woman last seen leaving a nightclub, but that theory fell apart. By the next day, December 30th, the grim confirmation came. The body was Selene Figare, a body by the roadside. It was Selene's cousin, not her parents, who took on the painful task of identifying her. From the start, investigators noticed something strange. The highway where her body had been found ran almost in the opposite direction of her intended destination. That detail only deepened their suspicion that the third truck driver, the last person known to have been with her, was the killer. None of Selene's clothes or personal belongings were at the scene. It was as if she'd been deliberately stripped of anything that could help police trace her final hours. The autopsy told its own grim story. She had multiple bruises and abrasions consistent with heavy blows. There were clear signs of strangulation, and the medical team confirmed she had been sexually assaulted. But there was no biological evidence, nothing that could link the crime to a suspect. One finding chilled detectives. The condition of the body suggested it had been left beside the road only about 24 hours before discovery. That meant she could have been alive for most of the 11 days she was missing. Or just as likely, her killer had kept the body with him. The second trucker recalled something unsettling. The suspect's vehicle had an industrial freezer in the trailer. It was entirely possible he had used it to store her body, keeping it cold for days. Even so, police had no solid lead on the man's identity. Then Céline's parents mentioned something that caught their attention. She had been carrying 2 bottles of French champagne, Christmas gifts for her cousin. Those bottles, like the rest of her belongings, had vanished. The champagne was a rare French brand not sold anywhere in Britain. If those bottles surfaced, they would be instantly recognizable. Investigators decided to turn that detail into bait. They sent the information, along with photos of identical bottles, to the media, hoping someone might have seen them or been offered them. Perhaps the killer had shown them off, unaware of the risk. But the lead went nowhere. The bottles, and the man who likely took them, remained missing. The first mass DNA sweep. With no new leads, investigators made a bold move. In January, they launched the first mass DNA collection in British history, even without finding the killer's DNA on Céline's body. The net was wide. Police focused on drivers of Mercedes trucks and similar models, testing more than 5,000 men over the next month. Most volunteered their samples. A smaller group refused, and detectives quietly flagged them for deeper scrutiny. The case dominated headlines in Britain and France. Thousands of tips poured in, but none broke the case open until mid-February. A man called police after seeing the composite sketch on TV. It looked, he said, exactly like his co-worker. Stuart Little, 36, a truck driver. The detail that made detectives sit up: Stuart drove a Mercedes with a refrigeration unit. A background check revealed an extensive criminal record, though all for non-violent offenses. Investigators approached him cautiously, framing their request for DNA as a standard part of the mass screening. Stuart refused. The refusal only sharpened suspicion. After repeated requests, Stuart finally agreed to give a sample. With his DNA secured, police obtained a warrant to search his truck. Inside, they found the first hard evidence: bloodstains on the mattress in the sleeping area and elsewhere in the cab. Forensic testing confirmed it belonged to Céline Figure. That was all detectives needed. Stuart Little was placed under arrest. Closing the trap. The search of Stuart Little's truck had already yielded damning evidence, but detectives weren't finished. A warrant for his home uncovered an even more incriminating find: Céline's personal belongings, the very items she'd had with her the day she vanished. In the garage, officers turned their attention to his tachograph, the device truckers are required by law to use to log their driving hours. The data told a story. On the day Céline's body was dumped, there was a deliberate gap in the record. Stuart had erased part of his movements, but he'd made a fatal mistake. After disposing of the body, he'd gone back to work without covering the missing entries. The gap lined up perfectly with the estimated window in which he had transported her remains to the roadside. During his first interrogation, Stuart denied everything. He claimed he had never even met Céline, but when police brought in the other driver, the man who had handed her over, he picked Stuart out of a lineup without hesitation. That was when Stuart changed his story. He now admitted to giving her a lift, insisting they'd had consensual sex. As for her belongings in his garage, he claimed she'd simply forgotten them when he dropped her off. Detectives didn't buy it. Then a new witness came forward. On the day before Céline's body was discovered, this person had seen Stuart near a warehouse roughly 50 miles from the dump site. He was standing beside his truck, tending a fire. It looked like he was burning something. Confronted with this, Stuart claimed the fire was to warm his frozen truck brakes. Investigators were unconvinced. They searched the area. Near the warehouse fence, they found something chilling: Céline's underwear, stained with her blood. Reconstructing the crime bit by bit, detectives pieced together the most likely chain of events. When Stuart Little picked up Selene Feiger, he drove her to a secluded location where he assaulted and killed her. Forensic evidence in his truck suggested he then kept her body on the lower bunk in his cab for 10 days, making deliveries as if nothing had happened. In one of the case's most chilling details, just a week after the murder, Stuart went home for Christmas, celebrating with his wife and children, while Selene's body remained only a few yards away in his truck. Eventually, he decided to dispose of her. Receipts showed he had bought a shovel, an axe, and a saw, likely intending to dismember her. But for reasons unknown, he abandoned that plan. Instead, he left her by the roadside. The day after Christmas, Stuart gifted 2 bottles of rare French champagne to an acquaintance. Detectives instantly connected this to the bottles Selene had been carrying as Christmas presents. Stuart claimed he had bought them from another French trucker, but no one believed him. He had also shaved off his beard around the time the suspect's sketch hit the news, an image that, before then, could have easily identified him. Investigators even solved the mystery of why Selene's payphone call to her cousin never went through. The UK had recently changed its dialing codes, and her cousin's number was still written in her notebook with the outdated code. The trial for Stuart's friends, family, and co-workers, the revelations were devastating. He had always seemed like a devoted father and a dependable colleague. Many initially refused to believe the accusations, until the mounting evidence left no room for doubt. In October, Stuart's trial began. He stuck to his denials, but the jury took little time to reach a verdict: guilty of murder. He was sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 20 years. Appeals and parole. Soon after sentencing, Stuart appealed, arguing that the case's media coverage had biased the jury. The appeals court rejected his claim. In 2006, he tried again, denied. By 2016, he became eligible for parole, but the board refused his release. Even after 2 decades behind bars, he still claimed innocence, and the judge deemed him a continuing danger to society. Stuart remains in prison, with little chance of freedom. Lingering questions. Stuart was eventually ruled out as a suspect in the other murders that had haunted the investigation's early days. Those crimes were traced to another truck driver, arrested in 1997 and linked to at least 2 killings. Still, detectives have long suspected Selene may not have been Stuart's only victim. But in all these years, no evidence has emerged to prove it. Be sure to let us know what you think of the story in the comments below. And if you like this video, smash the like button and don't forget to subscribe. A playlist is going to pop up right now with more videos you'll love. See you guys next time.